Hello, and welcome to this webinar, From Search to Chat, Unlocking Product Discovery in the Age of AI and Conversational Commerce. I'm your host, Natalija, Pavic, and I have with me two amazing guests that I will introduce in a bit, but we're lucky to have Paige Tyrrell on from Prefixbox. So very, very excited about the content we're showcasing you today. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the Salesforce Commerce Cloud Innovations Podcast, and you can find it anywhere you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, 14 different channels. So check it out. And we may be talking about some items here that are not released, some product features that are not live yet. Please, please, please make your purchasing decisions available on features and products available today. And to introduce my speakers, I'm Natalija Pavic, Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Salesforce, and the host of the Salesforce Commerce Cloud Innovations Podcast. As well, I have Nicholas Teodori, who leads product, and he is an expert all things AI and search. And we have, of course, the CRO of Prefixbox here. We're very lucky to have her, Paige Tyrrell, who is going to give us her point of view on search and discoverability. So we will start with the evolution of commerce and why we're here today and what we're talking about, how search has changed, both from an SEO perspective and introducing vector search and why that's important. And then we'll dive into product discoverability on GPT, but we'll end with how you can have your own GPT-esque experience on your website, supporting conversational commerce with Agentforce. I did want to mention commerce is fragmenting. What does this mean? Well, we started our e-commerce journey collectively buying from a single site, looking at a grid. And this is still actually the experience for a lot of people today. You are probably familiar with this experience. But as an industry, we're shifting to omnichannel, which is being able to buy from brick and mortar, online, kiosk, app, really anywhere, but having that all synced and orchestrated. The next level of commerce is commerce anywhere. This is what's coming. And this is the ability to buy at the moment of inspiration, whether that's during a TV ad or through a voice personal assistant or an influencer, or being able to simply snap an image on something somebody's wearing and being able to buy it right then and there. And this requires next level distributed commerce systems, which is very exciting. So, and here to tell you more about the history of search and SEO is, of course, our very own SEO expert, Nicholas Teodori.
Awesome. Thank you, Nat. I am really excited about this moment because I think in a lot of ways we're seeing some things come back full circle from the early days of the internet. When I remember first getting introduced to the internet and e-commerce, SEO was one of the bigger things people were talking. It's like, how do you get your site to show up on search engines? And there weren't that many back then. In fact, like in the early days, really Google was the earliest one to care about. And quickly kind of converged after there were a few in the early days, and that was a huge focus. And there are all these interesting white hat and black hat tricks to try to manipulate or game your way in there, and eventually they got a lot better at that. But over time, things obviously got more sophisticated. Like banner ads became a thing, to reach customers as they navigated around the internet, and like cross-site tracking cookies and all these things, and email and text messaging become ways that you could reach out to customers wherever they were. Of course, social media emerged not so long after that. And now you have these new ways that your potential shoppers are scrolling through and consuming content. And now you've got new ways of interjecting and presenting product media to them as they navigate around. And recently, with the advent of ChatGPT and generative AI, things have kind of come back around to search. Suddenly you're seeing all this activity around site search as an exciting paradigm. You're seeing things like Perplexity has just introduced a new shop and buy experience. You're hearing a lot about how people are using ChatGPT to get recommendations for products. And even with something like Search GPT, it's getting real-time information about what's out there. And people are starting to explore this whole new way of engaging with the knowledge base of everything that people know. So it becomes suddenly a lot for you to care about, whether it's SEO and optimizing your site for all these new engines that are crawling and indexing your information. It's really no longer just Google as the primary place. On-site search is suddenly a whole new area of optimization as conversational paradigms emerge, as semantic search matures, as the AI behind those things is getting much more sophisticated. And then you're looking at, of course, how does your stuff even showing up in all these new engines that people are interacting with for information? Conversational paradigms are emerging. And should you put that on your website? What does that mean if you do? Is that in your search bar? Is it next to it? Is it a little chat window? Is it through channels? Like all of these are big conversations and big questions you have to ask yourself. Um, and like if we look ahead, even you can even see with search how so many of these things have matured. We've kind of gone from this world of like, if you look at search engines like Google, like from keyword text matching to, Google was really revolutionary for their original like backlink and site reputation management. And we used to rank on that, 20 some odd years ago now, whenever that emerged. All these new sophisticated ways of, really become pretty robust and I'd say fairly standard as far as how you learn from users' behavior. And with GPT and BERT, we've really gotten to a world now where the search engine actually understands the content, which even 10 years ago that was not very true at all, other than word matching and maybe some standard synonyms, things like that. We're in this world where you can ask an engine about something and it really understands it and can put together a response. And on the SEO side, if you look at how this is changing the customer journey, one of the things that I think that a merchant needs to start worrying about is how much space in the shopping journey some of these experiences are starting to take up. I like this example from Google because it's very visual. It's something almost everyone here has probably certainly seen to some extent. When you would Google a type of product, in this example, we have a red wool sweater. You used to get category pages for those kinds of things. And in commerce, not that long ago, that was really your workhorse of SEO. That was a lot of where, other than maybe specific, really well-known products, where most of your acquisition traffic for organic search would come from is to category pages like this. Just in the last, I think this started emerging really 2 years ago with Google's generative experience. Google's layout now looks like a category page. So all your information that Google has understood is now organized and presented like a category page for search. And this is a big deal. It's actually a big shift for how somebody might think about SEO, where it's really about like, one, first of all, I think your brand really starts to matter here. Do people remember you, recognize you, like come to you because your stuff is now appearing with everybody else's stuff? Like you might have a smaller slice of the browse experience than you would have prior. But also like getting all your information syndicated to these sites is suddenly really important. We'll talk a little bit about how we think ChatGPT and Perplexity and all these sites like understand your site. Spoiler alert, we think it's a lot like, what Google has used historically for SEO to understand it. But suddenly all that structured information about your products becomes a lot more important. And this is kind of the gap that we're seeing. Where you're going from this kind of just keyword search to, really a lot more unstructured information, and a lot more unstructured thought from users. People are looking for ideas. They're looking for types of things. They might get really specific about why they need something. But there's a huge range of those possible specificities. If you talk about, one of the examples we'll talk about later is a coffee maker, like why you need a coffee maker. Are you going to be an espresso enthusiast? Or do you just want like a casual counter brew thing? Really changes that. People are starting to put that stuff into their searches, both on regular websites and in places like Google. And I'll hand off to Paige, who's going to talk to you about what some of that means and how you start to optimize for some of those things.
Thanks, Nick. So yeah, search is evolving and what people are searching for is also changing. So you as the retailer, how can you meet these demands on your site when shoppers come to your website and are looking for more conceptual based queries? The best way that you can do that is by leveraging an AI search engine or vector search. And vector search is the latest development in search relevant technology. And it's really important because it understands a wide range of queries, including conceptual queries. So you can see here in the illustration on the side that someone is searching for party dress, and it's unlikely that all of the dresses that would fall into this category are tagged in your product catalog. But vector search can understand the idea of what is a party dress, and it's somewhere between a cocktail dress and an elegant dress, and will return results that match that query, even though it's not a very specific keyword. So in order to match these expectations of where shoppers are looking for generalized thoughts or ideas, vector search can help you do that. And that's not to say that it's replacing everything that you've done in the past with keyword based search and all of the optimizations that you've done there. Vector search and keyword search actually work together, and your search engine can return results from both of them. They're re-ranked so that the most relevant results are coming first, which will improve the user experience. And on the flip side, for the retailer, a really interesting benefit is that it automates or eliminates most of the need for synonym management because of the nature of how a vector search engine works and how it can understand these concepts. Your search engine no longer is relying on a synonym database that you manually have to build. So it makes it much easier for you, the retailer, to use. And this is something at Prefixbox that we're really focusing is rolling out our AI vector search engine to our existing customers and measuring the kind of impact that it has. So this is one of our recent case studies that we did with Bauhaus, which is a DIY retailer. And you can see that this AI search engine makes really massive impact on retail websites. So for example, Bauhaus had a greater than 45% increase in revenue, more than 28% increase in average order value. So this technology, okay, it's new, it's cool, it's the hot topic to talk about, but it actually makes real impact for retailers. And if you're on Salesforce Commerce Cloud, Prefixbox is available in the App Exchange. And so you can have access to this technology on your own. So this is kind of encapsulating what you can do to solve the on-site search problem for yourself in this world that we're in now, where customer expectations are evolving. But now you also need to think about product discovery in a wider sense, because shoppers are using ChatGPT to discover products. And so you need to make sure that your products are also surfacing there. And this is an example from my personal life, because I just went to Peru and I was going on a hike and I needed so much equipment and gear and I didn't want to make the packing list. So I just went to ChatGPT to generate a list of what I needed for this hike in the Andes. And in this example, I was looking for hiking pants. And you can see here when I asked it, it actually returned 2 models of pants that it recommended for this hike. And so then I went on to ask it, where can I buy these? Because then I didn't need to go and execute another search. You can just do everything in one conversation. And it actually directed me to the Patagonia and Colombia websites for these respective products. So you can just do your shopping here, essentially get a link, click it, and go to the retailer website and check out. And so I asked it, how did it decide on these websites? Why did it decide to show me those 2? And it said it selected them based on their reputation. So this kind of leads to the next question of what can retailers do to make sure that their products are appearing on ChatGPT when people like me are shopping in this kind of scenario. So what Nick was mentioning, product data is still really important. So you need to make sure you have rich metadata with all of the product attributes filled out that you can, for example, size, color, brand, category. And while ChatGPT can't return images to you in a conversation, you might think that it's not important, but making sure your images are tagged correctly and thoroughly is very important, because it's still processing all of the data that's on your site to understand what you're offering. And all of this data obviously needs to be clearly structured so that it can process it correctly. It's also really important to optimize your product descriptions for natural language, because if you think about how you interact with ChatGPT, it mimics a conversation like you're talking to a real person, someone else. So the more conversational you can make your product descriptions and more conversational elements and product details and tags, the better chance you have of surfacing your products on GPT or ChatGPT. And so that goes a step further when you think about what kind of content you should be creating. The content that is the most conversational is going to be the best for you. So for example, product comparisons, buying guides, FAQs, product reviews are very important, because ChatGPT can actually just pull this information and regurgitate it to whoever's chatting with it. And it doesn't even need to reformulate the information that you have. So you're setting yourself up for the best chance of being included and for being included verbatim, like with the product descriptions that you have created. And you still can't ignore anything about SEO. So link building, page loading speed is very important. Having your titles, headings, meta descriptions for the relevant keywords, and also making sure you have a high domain rating, because that's something that ChatGPT is also taking into consideration. So when you're thinking about how you can surface your products here, all of this and your brand reputation come into play. And with that, I'll hand it off to Nat to talk more about conversational commerce.
Thank you, Paige. I learned a lot, actually, from watching you present this content, which is that having more conversational pieces will help be discoverable on GPT because it's learning from conversations, which is very different from previous ways in which we were looking for our products. Vector search is a great example of providing um, an indexer or potentially somebody, a machine, a number and being able to look. But now we're looking for context. So everything from FAQs to knowledge articles, even though your users may not be engaging with them, GPT is engaging with them, which is fascinating. Now we know customers are craving conversational commerce. So what happens if you are not engaging with them in this manner? Well, here are some horror stories from the field. And it's basically from my personal experience. So Nick mentioned, I was looking for an espresso machine. And so when I went to GPT to do all of my product search and recommendations, it gave me a list of best espresso machines that I could be looking at. But my favorite brand was not listed on there. And so I had to ask it again, but specify the brand. So why wasn't the brand listed? Fascinating, right? It could have been, it just wasn't surfacing the right content. It wasn't taking care of all the stuff. So, and there will be tons of brands now that will just not be surfacing. And it's all dependent on your existing assets and how you've architected that. But what this does reveal is that GPT is not specific to your brand. GPT will recommend your competitors. And so what you could do in the situation, since I wanted to find a meal or product, but the website wasn't providing me with that experience, is you could be setting it up for your own customers. And so we know customers will do tons of research, go back and forth, interact with email, a seller, online. So, and this is where a set of systems to orchestrate all of that is important. This is where Salesforce comes into play. We provide systems for every single aspect of it. And we know commerce is no longer an island. You need to be able to capture customer data and use that data in an effective way to meet customer demand, but also ensure that your products are discoverable by the customers and that effectively the products find the customer. And here to tell us more about Agentforce and how we're releasing conversational commerce to our existing customers is Nicholas Teodori.
Awesome. Back again. And excited to see how Agentforce can help you do more to address this need that's coming up. Both, of course, from the merchant side, like how do you get your store set up and ready? How do you make sure you have all the metadata and things like that? So your SEO is working as well as it can so that GPT crawlers who are reading your site understand all these things. And then, of course, you have the opportunity to start adding all of these interesting and innovative new UI paradigms to your store. And I think both of these are really exciting opportunities for a merchant. Of course, Agentforce does lots of things for Salesforce, but it's, I think, pretty exciting to talk about this just from the commerce angle of, I think, what this will do. And so, of course, generically, like, talking about how Agentforce works, this all starts with a conversation. And that's really the first part of it. So whether it's the agent proactively reaching out on your behalf or the customer asking a question, this starts with, that prompt, that text, whatever somebody has typed in, or, even via voice now, what they've asked. The agent, of course, is going to put together a plan, take all the things, what do I need to do and get done to make this happen for the customer? And these are things you build or that come out of the box. You can build different skills, actions that an agent can take. It's, of course, interacting all with your live data, protected, of course, by the Salesforce promise of trust, in a secure way, filtering all, toxicity, things like that can sometimes come out of LLMs to create a great customer experience. And then it's going to execute that plan that it's put together. So whether it's issuing product recommendations for a search, perhaps, that somebody has typed in, maybe it's asking questions about order status, maybe initiating an exchange, maybe even buying something. Down on the roadmap, we want to get to a point where the agent can actually buy on the shopper's behalf. And maybe even a shopper can fully enlist an agent to go and explore catalogs and purchase things. It's a very real scenario. And, using search and other technologies like that, how, they'll be able to navigate through a catalog and through a store and, really be your assistant through there. And of course, that turns into the outcome, which, whatever the agent ends up doing, answering the question, taking the action, doing the thing, whatever you've asked it to do, of course, is where that is all going. A lot of this is powered by search behind the scenes. So if you look at what retrieval augmented generation is, that is Agentforce's lens into all of your data. So of course, that's only the data you give it access to. But they can go retrieve whether it's information about a customer, order information, details about products. All of those things are accessible by Agentforce to be used in these conversational contexts in a way that creates a trusted, excellent experience for your customers. And of course, shopping these days is all about delight. So excited to see how this begins to come alive. And one of the first ways we're offering for this to happen is the personal shopper agent. This has been announced at Dreamforce and will be GA in February. And the first things this will do will be product recommendations. Especially in channel, you can ask about maybe a holiday gift idea, maybe going back to the espresso machine idea. And the agent will be able to interact with your catalog, search and sort through products, identify the best ones that are most suitable for whatever the customer will ask. And built on top of things like semantic search that Paige was talking about, can identify the right products and surface those in a conversational mode to your shoppers. And so again, this can happen directly on your website, can happen through something like WhatsApp or iMessages, any of those platforms to allow your customers to continue that buying experience. You see, beyond just product discovery, go back one bit, you'll also things like adding to cart and checkout and order tracking. So a whole host of other capabilities will come along with that. And now we'll go next. Of course, what all should you be doing here? We talked to a lot of customers, and a lot of people are in this test and learn phase now. They're trying out all these AI use cases. They're seeing what's working for both their business and their customers, trying to figure out what are those best modes of interaction that people are looking for? Like, how do customers come to an agent like this and ask questions? How are customers starting to search differently because of this world of generative AI and conversational searching? Kind of brings a whole new lens to commerce. And even on the UI side, is it a conversational presentation that customers are looking for? Is it, maybe just being able to ask a long form question and still see a good looking grid of products, right? All these, I think, are things that people are testing and learning. And, we're working with a few customers on different ends of that spectrum. So it's really exciting to see. And of course, nothing, it's hard to validate anything without measurement. So of course, looking at, what's working, what are the patterns that are proving out for your business, and then operationalizing those, making sure that you have the tools, the technology, everything else to fully implement all of that. And so a lot of that's going to be about making sure the right data is in the right place, making sure that tools like maybe agents or search have the right information from what users are doing to make the best recommendations and to learn from ongoing activity. I think a lot of us are going to be learning together in this new world of agents and commerce and conversational commerce and all these things that are coming out. But it's, I think, a really exciting time. Working patterns are really starting to emerge and starting to really get traction. So I think it's a great time to be thinking about all this stuff, and critical for your success in the future. So I'll hand back to Nat for the final close.
Thank you, Nick. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. This has been From Search to Chat, unlocking product discovery in the age of AI and conversational commerce. And thank you very much to our incredible speakers, Paige and Nick, for all of your contributions. And from here on out, check us out on Salesforce Commerce Cloud Innovations and test out and drive an agent. Thank you.